Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. She stares at the headstone and thinks, what an underwhelming life. How horribly full she was to be set up by that weak sister of hers and be convicted because of her, and which is why she returned and made a vow. She will not be incriminated by that woman for a second time, so she will become the perfect villain that surpasses even her. This is only the beginning. She stands unyielding before His Highness, reminding him that she is his fiancée, so why is he escorting her younger sister? But he refused to acknowledge her as such, claiming she is only a marriage candidate. Shocked, she demands what kind of joke this is, insisting she is a lady of the Duke's house and destined to marry him. He declares she is no longer part of the Lindsay family, and when she turns to her brother in shock, he states she will be sent to a monastery. Her father has already struck her from the family registry, and for bullying Firmina she will be placed under investigation. Her brother further accuses her of trying to make their half-sister out to be an insidious, bloodless creature. And all she can do is pale in disbelief, her mind circling the same desperate question, what in the world is happening? At last her sister steps forward, eyes wide with feigned innocence, and claims she is only worried for her elder sister, insisting she believes the monastery will help her change. She wonders why is she the one in the wrong. Her brother urges her sister to leave, and as they turn to go, the girl glances back, her lips curling into an evil smile meant only for her. She wondered why again and again. Why was she condemned like this? When she arrives at the monastery, a woman lounges with a smug expression, remarking on how unlucky she is. Even though she was the precious daughter of the Duke, and calls her a foolish child to have been sent off to a brothel. Confused, she mumbles it is a monastery. With a huff, Helen asks, does this place look like a monastery? Claudia blurts she wasn't supposed to come here. Helen jokes so on the way to the monastery, a bunch of bandits conveniently attacked her and sold her off. She quietly replies she is not sure about that either. Suddenly, she comments, her half-sister Firmina, was it? All those crimes she pinned on her, were not she totally dancing in the palm of her hand? Helen stares at her and remarks she didn't have the ability to outsmart other people, did she? When she first messed with that girl, someone must have coaxed her into doing it right, saying that it will surprise her a little. Now that Helen mentions it, our female protagonist thinks she always messed with her along with other people. It was just a plan that would cause some harmless mischief. Those noble girls following her told her to do it. Seeing her expression on her face, Helen remarks so she was framed, and jokes that not to compare, but if this was a story she would be the lady made out to be a villainess. She considers the role of villainess. If she were to see herself from an outsider's view, she's a person who tormented her little sister. Helen settles beside her and gently coaxes that her sister merely played the part of a delicate young lady, so they should take their own measures as well. She has everyone fooled. Instead, she could return to being His Highness' fiancée. Isn't she an astounding villainess? However, no matter how much our female protagonist racks her brain, she really did not notice. Her little sister, a product of father's affairs, was only a gloomy and troublesome child. Eventually, she ended up planning all of this. Why didn't she notice sooner? Why has she fallen to this extent? She was a stupid and haughty young girl who was ignorant to the world. All of this happened because of her foolishness. She never thought that she would claw her way up. But this is not over. Suddenly she stands up and bows down in front of Helen, telling her to offer her guidance to her. Every one of a prostitute's tricks. Helen smiles and says she guesses they will need to make her number one. Dee enters after knocking. Helen, lying weakly in bed, notices her face carries an unusually sad expression despite today's celebration. Helen tells her not to ruin becoming the best. Dee retorts she doesn't want a sick woman telling her that. Either way, she's not in the mood for it. Helen remarks she's not enjoying herself since it is the debut of the firstborn of the crown prince, right? Claudia grumbles if she knows that, why is she saying she doesn't want to hear it? No matter how much Dee understands how long it has been, she cannot help but feel miserable. Even if she can easily manipulate them, even if she becomes the best at the brothel, even if she has the knowledge to have political discussions. She has never forgotten that face. She turns to Helen on the bed, who suddenly grumbles, cursing God and wishing that Dee would just smile. Dee looks at her and mumbles what is with her. She doesn't need to pray for that as long as she's here. However, meeting this woman has been Dee's only source of comfort. Later, as she stands before Helen's grave, she cannot help but think if perhaps flimsy God really did exist, such a wonderful senior wouldn't have been taken away. If that flimsy God truly existed, if she were to get one more chance. She was convicted and realized the cruelty of this world. She realized her own stupidity, as well as the kindness of others. She won't act foolishly for the second time. She sits before the mirror as the maid brushes her hair, scolding her to show more respect as the Duke's daughter and reminding her that she will be attending her mother's funeral, and the words strike her like a blow, her gaze locking on Martha's reflection in shock before she rises abruptly, insisting this cannot be a dream, demanding how her mother passed away, only for Martha to reply that it was the epidemic. And when Claudia asks for a moment alone, she dismisses the maids, whispering to herself that today is her mother's funeral and worse, her body has reverted to that of a 14-year-old child, so flimsy proof that God must truly exist. And later, as she walks down the hallway, she thinks how long it has been since she set foot in this residence, though in truth she has lived here for so many years, hasn't she? After Helen's funeral, her physical condition fell apart, and from the same illness that took her mother, she died. As she enters the room, her brother turns to her and asks if she is ready. She replies yes. A young older brother and father, she really has returned to the past. Mother was an incredibly strict woman. Even if she disliked something, it wouldn't have mattered. Father was unable to bear her and distracted himself with other women. But now she understands, so that she wouldn't be hated by the other nobles, she only sought perfection in her. She couldn't let that mistress and her daughter hold her back, since she couldn't comprehend anything before she was led to her demise. Exactly 1 year after the funeral, Mother's closest friend Martha was fired. The mistress and her daughter hired someone in place of her. However, this time, with her knowledge of the past after returning, she has got the upper hand. And Claudia is definitely determined to change the future. First, Claudia decides to check on Martha. In order to rescue Helen, she must solidify her power and support. And for Firmina, she won't let her ruin amok this time, since she is no longer that foolish, idiotic child. Suddenly, she collapses at her mother's grave, wailing and demanding why she was left behind, and her brother rushes to her side, urging her not to act so improperly before their mother, but she turns on him through her tears, crying out if he isn't sad too, now that they have no one left and their father never comes home. And as their father watches in silence from a distance, she clutches her brother, begging him to let her stay by his side and promising to become a good girl, and with emotion breaking through, he swears he will take their mother's place and protect her, yet as he embraces her, her face turns blank. Even her father and brother love helpless women. She glances at her father, who stands there quietly and wonders what is he thinking. Only if he can realize that he neglected his own children. She then calls out to her father, pleading with him to open his heart to her, to recognize her even a little, tears pouring down her cheeks without end, but he only turns away and, without meeting her eyes, tells them to go home. There are many things she needs to do. But first and foremost, she is to save Helen. Then, unlike her previous stupid self, she must not repeat that day. She will not be incriminated by that woman for a second time. This is only the beginning. If Firmina is considered a villainess, then she will be evil itself. She shall aim to become the ultimate villain. Meanwhile, the Crown Prince's friend Tristan informs him that he has heard that spoiled girl has changed for the better. Though he could not believe it. Tristan also reminds the prince that the Duke Lindsay has been aiming to get her to be his fiancée. So he might have just spread a rumor. The Crown Prince remarks political marriage is a very common thing. Tristan mumbles if it is really so, then goes on to say he has also heard that he neglects his family for his mistress. And their friend Virgil cannot stand it when his father leaves for his mistress home. Tristan doesn't particularly like that girl, but he does feel bad for her situation. The prince says if he's that worried, he can join them for tea next time. Tristan asks if he is sure. The prince replies it will be fine if he's just there as his personal guard, and they also need to find whether the rumors are as they say. On the other hand, in the mansion, as Claudia passes by, the maids whisper among themselves, astonished at how much she has changed since the madam's passing, unable to even recognize her, saying it is as if she has become a different person, and with her private tutor's approval as well, the lady now radiates a new maturity, her beauty seeming to grow with each passing day. Claudia smiles at them and thinks, after all, she did not come back to live her life as some noble prostitute. She was a girl totally ignorant of the ways of the world, which led to her ruin due to the work of her half-sister. While she sunk to a prostitute, her sister was able to climb her way to a crown princess. Etiquettes, conversation, social awareness. She has mastered it all. Since she has been given this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Claudia is determined to surpass that woman and become the perfect villainess. Only that way she can avoid her conviction. She knocks on her brother's door and steps inside, asking if he shouldn't take a break soon, and he turns from his study table with a softened look, saying that since it is his dearest sister, he could never refuse her, and when she tells him that she will be serving him today because she has practiced so much just to make him something to drink, he asks in surprise if she really practiced for him. And she answers without hesitation that of course she did, recalling how she had never seen him smile before returning to the past, and though he marvels that she put in the effort despite being busy, she admits with a giggle that her first attempt was nearly undrinkable, but he smiles and assures her there is no need to be so modest since everyone knows how hard she tries, and she thinks to herself that he is exactly right, there is not a single person here who would badmouth her. All unfolding according to her plan as she steadily prepares to shape herself into a villain, and when she urges her brother to drink, he takes a sip and smiles warmly, declaring it delightful, that she is amazing, and he could drink gallons of it, to which she replies she would happily make gallons for him, though for now it is only thanks to her attendance that it turned out so well, which makes him pause since he recalls how she used to distance herself from them, and she admits that while Martha's expressions are not the friendliest, they are still the ones who care for her, and in her mind she resolves that, if she is to gather information on Helen, the lower-class noble ladies entering as apprentices will be invaluable, and she cannot afford to disrupt her information network. She smiles and says she wants to learn embroidery too, then asks if she made him a handkerchief, would he accept it? He exclaims of course he would, making her think he really is way too easy. Their conversation breaks off when the door bursts open and the butler enters, and when her brother asks what it is, the butler reports that the Lord will be returning soon, which makes her brother frown as he asks how long until his arrival, and Claudia, surprised since it is the first time in a long while he has come home, wonders what is going on before telling her brother she would like to greet him together, and later when the master enters, he immediately asks the butler if his daughter is present, only for Claudia to appear before an answer is given, greeting him with a warm smile and offering to prepare tea for him, leaving her father momentarily stunned. She realizes he is at a loss for words, and afterward, as both children follow him down the hallway, she asks if she properly welcomed him home, to which he replies that there was no fault, while her brother adds that Claudia always works the hardest and reminds him that he must have heard from her private tutor, and her father admits he did receive the report, which makes her realize he came to confirm it. Suddenly he turns and tells her to have tea with Crown Prince Sylvester. Surprised, her brother blurts really? Her father says it is a one-on-one, but there shouldn't be any objections with the way she is now. Sweating, she stammers it is an honor. This never happened last time, plus a one-on-one this suddenly. Her brother mistakes her pale face for nervousness and assures her that with the way she is now, she will be fine. It's natural to be nervous, he says, but he is sure His Highness will be too. Their father watches her and remarks flatly that His Highness is a clever boy, and as long as she isn't careless, there will be no problem. Her father cannot help but think Claudia was never this composed before. Maybe the lady's maid's guidance has shown results. Meanwhile, Claudia realizes since she has reformed her behavior, the future has begun to change. Who knew they would be meeting face to face this quickly? Later, she paces the room in nervous anticipation, thinking that meeting His Highness is far more nerve-wracking than she imagined. At this stage, it is much too late to get out of the talks of marriage. Other than herself, there are 3 other marriage candidates. Although they are all preparing for the same position, she heard she was the first. In terms of court hierarchy, it's only natural. But she has heard from others that at this point in time, her position was in jeopardy. She would be happy if she were not his fiancée. But she has to stop Firmina from stealing the position away. If she has that power, she will most definitely have her convicted once more. She, the faultless daughter of a duke, wouldn't be a bad choice to the royal family. Why the Lindsay house is a part of royalty, it holds a neutral position understood by emerging merchant nobles. Perhaps Firmina was merely a marriage of convenience as well. She doesn't have a choice. She won't know until she meets him. This time, she won't slip up. She enters the room where His Highness awaits and greets him with grace, thanking him for the invitation. Sylvester replies that he is glad she could come, and she finds herself stunned by how bright and adorable he looks. Taking her seat on the sofa opposite him, she remarks that it is a fine day to meet. He answers likewise. Her eyes drift to the child beside him, Tristan, son of the leader of the Royal Knights, who, like her brother, seems even cuter at this age. She then produces a small gift, explaining that she would be grateful if he accepted it as a token of their acquaintanceship, and even more delighted if he took a liking to it. Tristan accepts the package on his behalf and hands it over. Sylvester asks if he may open it, to which she quickly exclaims, "Of course he can." She smiles behind her hand, and he notices the bandage on her finger just as surprise flickers across his face at what lies inside the box. Tristan, watching beside him, breathes out a wow, calling her embroidery splendid, but she modestly insists she is far from deserving such praise. She was quite fond of embroidery back when she was a prostitute. After seeing the bandage on her finger, he won't be able to forget an admirable young lady who tried his best for His Highness' appeal. Today's tea is partly her victory. He remarks that the rumors must be true, that she even sent her father a handkerchief, to which she replies it was one of her poorer attempts. He then asks if the bandage is from embroidery. She blinks innocently and admits how unsightly it is that she is still practicing. With a small smile, he simply says he sees before leaning toward Tristan to whisper something in his ear. She straightens, caught off guard by his reaction, before he turns back to her and tells her she may call him Syl. She smiles, replying that it is an honor, and invites him to call her Claudia in return. Yet something feels off. Lord Sylvester's emotions are unreadable, and the longer she stares, the more unsettling it becomes until he suddenly asks what's wrong and why she won't speak freely with him. The realization strikes her then, she is being tested. He may be a child, but such sharpness is expected of royalty. Composed, she answers that it would not be proper to act so casually before His Highness. He smirks at her reply, remarking how refined she is. She replies she is far from it, she is still lacking. Admitting she's quite nervous, actually. He laughs and remarks someone like her can get used to it easily. She says on the contrary, she is worried she will make a careless mistake. With a smile, he says he would like to see that happen. It is a meeting consisting of backhanded discourse. Claudia sinks into the carriage seat with a long breath, relieved the encounter is finally over, though the weight of it still lingers. She hadn't expected it to be so exhausting, nor had she anticipated how quickly Sylvester would strike the moment she showed the slightest weakness. Truthfully, she felt more dead than alive, her thoughts drifting not to herself but to Firmina, though she knows the girl is the least of her concerns right now. If the entire royal family is like that guy, it would be horrifying. Meanwhile, Tristan praises Claudia as far beyond the rumors, an intelligent, beautiful, and elegant lady. When Sylvester gives no answer, Tristan presses, asking what's wrong, surprised he isn't more excited. Sylvester finally admits it was fun. Claudia was far more interesting than the other ladies, unpredictable in her words and manner. Yet while Claudia worries he may have left disliking her, Sylvester finds his thoughts tangled around her, that doesn't sit right with him. Resolving to shift her focus, Claudia considers consulting her father about Helen, realizing she will need the girl's help. At that very moment, Helen trembles in another place, standing before a man who remarks that she is much older than he expected. As Claudia writes a letter at her desk, a maid steps inside, announcing it is about the matter previously discussed. Claudia immediately understands it is time and instructs her to send out an envoy. The long-awaited moment has finally arrived, and thoughts of Helen bring a rare warmth. That girl has always been her greatest happiness. Meanwhile, in another place, Helen faces a man who scoffs at her age, calling 18 practically middle-aged. With disdain, he suggests money must be her true aim, otherwise she wouldn't be here. Leaning close, he whispers that she should try a brothel first, then maybe he would consider her. Humiliated, Helen flees into the streets, tears streaming as his words echo in her head. The sting burns deeper because she is a count's daughter, supposed to carry herself with dignity, not endure such shame. Yet even as her sobs break, a memory surfaces, her teacher's voice praising her. Learning was fun. Which is why she studied a lot. It was the effort that only she put in. Even father was enthusiastic about her education. Even if it was because of her father's vanity. Even though the family still had a count's title, the Hoskins, a family that wasn't blessed with land, had a long history, however little income. Once he gave up the title, she knew that from tomorrow she would no longer be a count's daughter. She studied incredibly hard. Maybe it was because she already knew. If she couldn't even get an education, she could at least get married and be happy and live well. The man's cruel words keep echoing in Helen's mind as she stumbles through the streets, colliding with a passerby and falling to the ground. Whispers ripple around her, people pointing, asking what the count's daughter is doing in such a state, mocking her as the lady of a fallen house no one would ever want. Their voices bite into her, and she thinks miserably that if only she were still studying, at least there might be hope. Now she has nothing to offer, nothing to sell, and no one would even find her charming. The man's sneer rings again, try a brothel, then maybe I'll ask something of you, and step by step, she is led toward that very place. Just as she steels herself before its door, a voice interrupts. A man approaches, bowing slightly, and declares he is the envoy of the Lindsay house, come to escort her. Holding out his hand, he asks if she would like to come with him, calling her Lady Claudia's personal lady-in-waiting. Stunned, Helen accepts his hand, hardly understanding what has happened, and soon finds herself standing before the grand mansion. She didn't think much of it back there, but a low-ranked noble serving at a higher-ranked residence is totally normal. But she is not someone she even knows, so why her? This doesn't even feel real, and she has yet to even meet Lady Claudia. She wonders what kind of lady she is, but must be incredibly kind. She cannot wait to see her. Later, Helen hesitates outside the door, nervous. Only yesterday she was in rags, wandering the streets, and now everything feels too sudden, too unreal. But she reminds herself she has nothing left to lose. Gathering her courage, she enters and bows deeply, declaring that she heard her presence here is thanks to Lady Claudia's recommendation and that she will devote herself wholeheartedly to her. To her shock, Claudia rushes forward and throws herself into Helen's arms, eyes bright with tears as she exclaims how glad she is that they've finally met. Pulling her into the room, Claudia gushes that while her older brother is wonderful, she's always longed for an older sister, and since Helen is 18, she hopes she'll tell her about things like school and high society. Helen smiles gently at her sweetness, moved by the girl's innocence. The next day, when Helen enters with a smile, Claudia greets her cheerfully, saying she is just in time and inviting her to share tea. Helen replies that she had already prepared with that in mind, earning Claudia's delighted remark that she knows her too well. Over tea, Claudia softly mentions that it has been nearly a year since her mother's passing. When Helen asks if she feels lonely remembering those days, Claudia answers no, because Helen is here, and with her brother, Martha, and the other attendants by her side, she has been fine. Helen assures her she has never met a lady so lovely, one so cherished by everyone. Claudia lowers her gaze and quietly replies that she already knows. The hard work she put in was worthwhile. She will be able to conduct herself well this time around. Just then, the butler bursts in, urgency in his voice as he announces that the master has returned, this time with a guest. Claudia's smile twists with anticipation, and she says she will happily welcome them with open arms. At last, the day has come. She has only made more allies. Since that day she was convicted, that face never left her mind. It infuriated her, no matter how many times she recalled it. Claudia has become the perfect villain and made her return. The question is if Firmina is ready for what's to come. For mistreating her stepsister and encouraging others to do it, she was condemned that day. What she didn't know was that it was all a plot to ruin her, and because of her ignorance and stupidity, she ended up being a prostitute. That trap was set by the stepsisters of hers. She will definitely overcome it as the villain. Later, Helen fumes on her behalf, insisting it's too much, that he is completely ignoring both Virgil's and Claudia's feelings. Virgil agrees, saying that even if it is their father's decision, he cannot accept it. Yet Claudia only smiles and tells her brother the mansion will be livelier from now on. Isn't that a good thing? Helen bursts out, demanding she show more anger, unable to understand why Claudia is acting this way. But Claudia simply thinks that since everyone else is upset, it is better for her to remain calm. It has been 2 weeks since Firmina and her mother Lilith came to the mansion. There haven't been any problems in the mansion yet. And they have been spending some quiet days. Virgil says the fact that she isn't affected by the decision only shows she is too kind, as always. She smiles and says, "Is that how it seems?" Claudia is waiting to see what Firmina would do, but, so far nothing has happened. For starters, what led her to her doom? Was it her difficult personality? But now that Claudia is a perfect lady, she won't have any reason to incriminate her, right? Helen, fuming, swears that if they do anything suspicious, they will not be safe. Claudia suddenly turns to Sir and suggests they go outside for some fresh air. Once outside, she gently tells Helen not to trouble herself so much on her behalf, adding that Miss Lilith is a good person, and if anyone is to blame, it is their father for running away from his responsibilities. Her stepmother was always a good person, which forced her to wonder, where did Firmina get her personality from? Maybe in the end Claudia was the one who corrupted her personality. As they pass by, they come across Firmina taking dance lessons. Helen remarks that her lady has far more elegance, but Claudia only notes that the royal family's tea party will be held soon, perhaps that is when Firmina intends to make her debut. When you meet someone, you have to make sure you greet them correctly. High society is not tolerant, and since she has risen in status from a low-ranking noble to a high-ranking one, all that she studied has become useless. Since she carries the stigma of being a mistress daughter, her reputation will definitely be low. She cannot help but think how nice it would have been if everything continued as quietly as it has been going. Suddenly, her stepmother notices them and waves. She asks if Claudia came to see Firmina, but Claudia replies she only happened to pass by. Stepping closer, her stepmother asks if Claudia could demonstrate a dance for them. Claudia smiles modestly and says she isn't that skilled, yet her stepmother insists that seeing her steps will help Firmina learn faster. With a faintly twisted expression, Firmina watches as Claudia takes her place and begins to dance alongside the teacher. Her stepmother marvels at her elegance, while Helen gushes in admiration, leaving Firmina to stand quietly between them. Lilith praises her dance as wonderful, and Helen adds it is a pity she did not perform in her dress. With a shy smile, Claudia excuses herself, saying she will withdraw now and let the lessons continue. But suddenly, Firmina bursts into tears, crying that it is cruel. Claudia came only to show off, knowing she is bad at dancing. Dramatically collapsing to the floor, she sobs that Claudia is always making her look like a fool. Her mother, shocked, insists Claudia was only giving an example, yet Firmina refuses to listen. At that moment Virgil enters, and Claudia's heart sinks. It looks as if she has been caught doing something terrible. Seizing the moment, Firmina leaps into his arms, accusing Claudia of being cruel. When Virgil turns to question her, Claudia stammers in disbelief, unable to defend herself. It isn't true. Even though she was so alert, she still fell for it. Everything she had carefully built feels shattered in an instant. Her brother, without a word, takes Claudia by the arm and leads her away. Later, he sighs, remarking that so this is what happened. Helen, seething, snaps that of all people, that woman dares accuse Lady Claudia of being a villainess. Perhaps she suffers from paranoia and victimization. Claudia quietly sips her tea, thinking how troubling it is that Firmina suddenly rose to the position of a high-ranking noble. Her brother warns her to keep her distance, even if he trusts her ability to endure. Helen, however, only smiles and declares that there is no one as perfect as her lady. After dinner, Lilith went to apologize. And speaking of Firmina, she locked herself in her room. Life in the house of a duke seems peaceful, but the expectations of others are very high. As she has experienced being a prostitute, she is easily attentive to others. Claudia spends time exercising with Helen to tone her body, and their talk drifts to beauty products until a maid suddenly arrives, asking to speak with her about Miss Firmina. The maid explains that the master, worried since Firmina had remained in her room for some time, went to check on her only for Firmina to use the chance to claim that Lady Claudia had tormented her. Helen begins to snap in outrage, but Claudia silences her and calmly asks whether their father believed it. The maid answers that she cannot say. When she asked the master directly, he denied it, insisting he was only seeking the truth. It seems even the lady herself knew this. Dismissing the maid for the night, Claudia listens as Helen fumes that the girl isn't just paranoid but now lying outright. Claudia quietly realizes that Firmina's true aim is to brand her the villain. It is no different from back then. The next time she's not able to answer, she might end up stumbling in her path again. At the upcoming party Firmina will also be there and she won't let her get away with it. At the party, the prince stands at the top of the grand staircase, gazing down at the gathered guests. It has been a long time, and all the while he has been waiting to see Claudia. Firmina looks around in awe and says it is beautiful. They have arrived at the tea party hosted by the royal family. A girl approaches Claudia and says she's wearing such a lovely dress. Then she notices Firmina and asks who this person is. Before Claudia can reply, Firmina cuts her off and tells her herself that she is her sister Firmina. Claudia watches her, thinking she's so good at socializing. Stylovester will attend today. It is kinda scary since she doesn't know what she will do. If Firmina wasn't enough, she has to handle the prince too. Her gut feels like it is about to twist off. She simply wanted this tea party to conclude quietly. She freezes when he appears. His Highness Sylvester, although he is already gorgeous, he is becoming even more stunning. Claudia greets the prince, thanking him for inviting her, and his gaze immediately drops to her chest. Inwardly, she smirks, certain he cannot resist his instincts. With calculated poise, she draws Firmina closer and introduces her as her younger sister. Firmina beams at him with an overly sweet smile, but he dismisses her almost at once, leaving her to realize he has no interest in her. It seems that it was not love at first sight that they got married in the past. Tristan waves at her with unrestrained enthusiasm, and she lifts her hand in return. Around them, the women gush over Sylvester's striking beauty, whispering how the prince has yet to choose a fiancé, a fact that keeps their hopes alive, each one secretly imagining it could still be her. Sylvester did not seem to have any interest in Firmina. On the contrary, she seemed to have fallen at first sight. Given the possibility, she must have kicked her out for that love. She cannot be bothered. She has to seize the power of being his fiancé before she gets condemned. Before Claudia can make sense of it, Firmina suddenly spills her drink, the liquid staining her dress as she collapses to the floor with a pitiful cry, accusing Claudia of pushing her. The commotion draws even the prince's and Tristan's attention, leaving Claudia stunned into silence as Firmina, with a crumpled face, asks if she truly wishes to humiliate her before everyone. Whispers ripple through the crowd, judgment already forming before Claudia can utter a word in her defense, and Firmina flees the hall in tears, leaving Claudia surrounded by suspicion. Claudia is at a loss for words. Just like that, she became the older sister that humiliated her younger sister, because once again, she was tricked by Firmina. Claudia realizes she has to go after her. Because if she doesn't, she won't be able to take care of the aftermath. Claudia starts crying, her voice trembling as she says it is nothing but a misunderstanding, that poor Firmina must have tangled her legs out of nervousness. Then, with a dramatic drop, she falls to the ground, lamenting that she could not relax because of her own anxiety and has failed as an older sister. The girls immediately rush to her side, flustered, and she explains it was only because she was too anxious, that she had let her sister down. They comfort her, telling her not to worry, reassuring her that they are on her side and that everyone will surely understand. For now, this is fine, Claudia thinks to herself, but deep down she knows Firmina will not stop with just this, not unless she puts an end to it sooner or later. She thanks the girls and adds that she is worried about her sister, so she must go and find her. Just as she begins to move, His Highness suddenly appears in front of her, blocking her path and insists he will escort her. Her eyes widen, startled that he would appear at such a time, and she quickly insists this is a sibling matter and she cannot trouble him with such things. But he refuses, saying he was not by her side when it all happened, so at the very least she can allow him to do this much for her now. She has no choice but to relent, replying that if it is His Highness's wish, then she shall accept his offer. Still, inside, her thoughts race, she needs to follow Firmina quickly but instead she is caught dealing with Sylvester. Tristan, standing nearby, listens as Sylvester calmly remarks that she has come down and seems to get along well with Lady Firmina. Claudia answers with a small smile, saying yes, they are on good terms, but inside she is panicking, knowing she has to reach Firmina before anything else happens. Sylvester then says Lady Firmina appears to be different and that she must have endured hardship. Claudia mumbles that she does not know why such a thing happened or what she did wrong, but when he looks ahead, she casts him a sharp glare, silently thinking he shouldn't dare to stop her and let her go, joining hands with her sister. Suddenly, he laughs, the sound low and teasing, and asks, what does she really think? She's clearly lying about getting along well, isn't she? Usually, children of a mistress are nothing more than targets of hatred, especially if they receive more of a father's attention. Claudia meets his gaze steadily and replies that she doesn't think so, the fault lies with her father and that Firmina is innocent. This is her true belief. None of this would have happened if her father had not abandoned them for his mistress. A small smile curls on her lips as she turns to him, crossing her arms and asking if her answer satisfies him. He returns her daring smile, leaning closer, and says that if she wants to satisfy him, he wants to know her true feelings. With that, he pulls her closer, their faces mere inches apart, admitting he wants to peel away her mask. Claudia realizes he is finally showing his true self, this is what he has been after all along. She warns him that women have secrets to hide as well. He bursts into laughter, saying he didn't see that coming. As expected, she is interesting. This character suits her better than crying. She sees His Highness wants to enjoy some game. When it comes to love, she's not naive. Claudia announces she will be leaving, but stops when he asks if chasing after her is truly that important, if her sister matters more than he does. He must say he is jealous. He suddenly twirls her lightly, warning that such reactions might bruise a man's pride. She retorts, reminding him it's against the rules to touch a potential fiancé candidate. He laughs softly, calling her tough and noting she doesn't seem shaken at all. He points out that her sister may have already left and offers to escort her back in his carriage, reasoning that as a fiancé candidate, it won't be an issue. Claudia agrees, surprising him. He had truly expected her to refuse. He asks if she hates being so inept in front of him. She replies she accepts his kindness but owes him nothing. He huffs in disbelief, and she quips that in that case, she will entertain him. Claudia casually asks him if that woman's strange behavior didn't interest him. Sylvester's answer reveals just how quick he is to notice everything. He says if Claudia didn't push her, then Firmina's actions are a declaration of war, the beginning of a battle between women. Though he doesn't want the Lindsay family to waver, he asks if it's inevitable. She replies it might be, then cheekily suggests he enjoy the show from a VIP seat. He jokes if this fight is meant to compensate for the carriage ride, but adds that merely observing won't suffice. Pulling her closer again, he murmurs that he wants her to try to love him, and regarding her earlier remark, he insists he doesn't want to intervene but watching from the sidelines is too boring. The political marriage of convenience, he reminds her, requires compromise from both sides. Leaning in, he whispers that he has been yearning for her for a long time, leaving her speechless. This leaves her speechless and he teases that it looks like she doesn't have a retort this time and simply walks away, as though he hadn't just confessed. Later, when she returns to her mansion, the maid informs her that Miss Firmina is already back. Claudia can see the black malice in Firmina's eyes. Suddenly, Helen rushes to her, angry, but Claudia raises a hand, signaling that she already knows. The curtain for this fight has opened, and she will surpass Firmina as an ultimate villainess. The incident that happened at the tea party that was hosted by the royal family, a tea party that was supposed to be peacefully concluded. In front of His Highness the Crown Prince, her half-sister falsely accused her. This is not merely something she can let it slide since it didn't just happen inside the house. Claudia asks Helen if father and madam are here too. Helen replies yes. As soon as Miss Firmina came back, she was looking for his lordship crying. Through gritted teeth, Helen mutters that Firmina is a habitual liar. As Claudia enters the room where everyone is gathered, Firmina snaps at her not to come closer, clinging to their father and accusing her of planning to bully her further. Claudia calmly says that the misunderstanding still hasn't been cleared, but Firmina insists that her sister pushed her and that there were witnesses. Their father asks Claudia if it's true. She firmly replies no, knowing she must overturn this false accusation, and points out that no one actually saw her push Firmina. Surely the witnesses Firmina mentions are just people who heard her loud screaming. Firmina blurts out that this isn't true, and Claudia counters, asking if any of the ladies at the party would testify on her behalf. Firmina immediately claims those ladies are likely in cohort with her, because she is just a mistress's child. Their mother freezes in shock, and Claudia can't help but wonder how deeply Firmina's words must hurt her. Firmina continues, declaring that her sister hates her because their father loves her more. Claudia recalls the prince's words that children of mistresses are often targets of hatred and realizes everyone must think the same. She simply says this is all her father's fault. Firmina is not to blame and asks Firmina if she hates her. Firmina can have the role of a tragic heroine. As always, she will become the villainess. Firmina suddenly jerks upright and shouts that she doesn't care what Claudia says about her, but no one is to speak ill of their father. But Claudia shoots back she will. Father left mother and abandoned her and Virgil and that all of this is his fault, so they are all victims. Lacking a logical response, Firmina presses against their father, murmuring in his arms not to speak ill of him. Claudia thinks that if she were in Firmina's position, she would resent him too. After all, her life had been upended by his choices, and who else is truly responsible for this mistake? Suddenly, their father snaps at Firmina to stop, demanding she return to her room. As her mother drags her away, Firmina screams, warning him not to be fooled and shouting that she hates them. Virgil approaches Claudia, asking if she is all right and urging her not to mind Firmina. Their father slumps onto the sofa quietly and asks if they resent him. Claudia retorts, does he think they love him? Virgil adds as a duke they acknowledge him to some extent but as a father they don't. While he doesn't resent him but if he hurts Claudia a little more than this, he will hate him. Claudia says she will also hate him if he hurts Virgil. And tells her father to remember this is the first time they used her hate against him. He quietly says he's pleading with his neglected children to save his own face. How little a person has he become? In response, Claudia lets out a bitter smile, saying she had cried in front of her mother's grave, hoping for even the slightest acknowledgement from her father, but he never bothered. He buries his face in his hands and apologizes. Because everyone treated the matter seriously, Firmina was sent to a distant territory until she could enter the academy. Standing in her disordered room, Firmina mutters that this is all wrong, that everyone has been fooled, and vows to teach her a lesson once school begins. At the spring interest ceremony, her brother waits for her, asking if she's nervous and reminding her that he's proud his little sister is the first-year representative. She smiles and replies that she is equally proud that he is the student council president. She recalls that before rewinding time, Firmina had also been the first-year representative, and realizes that if she wants her sent to a monastery, she will need conclusive evidence of her wrongdoings. Just then, the Crown Prince and Tristan enter, greeting both siblings, and Virgil nudges the Crown Prince by the shoulder when he notices Claudia's nervousness. The prince meets her gaze and offers to deliver the new student representative speech for her. She smiles, saying that this level of tension is nothing compared to one-on-one interactions with him, which are far worse for the heart. A student announces that it is time, and as she leaves, Claudia teases she should put his hand on his chest and think about it a little more. There are a couple of potential fiancé candidates here too. All sorts of aristocrats. From royals to merchants and to the lady who will instigate a snare to trap her, her half-sister. This is a battlefield. If Claudia shows any openings, anyone will take advantage of it. In this 3 years, she will bring it on. She just has to be more perfect. Later, Firmina approaches, wearing a fake smile, and compliments her speech as splendid. Claudia simply replies, "Thanks." When the prince appears behind her, Firmina nearly calls out his name and declares it an honor to be in the same class as him. Claudia can't help but feel embarrassed on her sister's behalf. Before she rewound time, her grades were really bad. And she was in a different class than Firmina and Sylvester. But now that they are in the same class, it is easier to keep Firmina in check. But she's not the only one she has to keep an eye on. Another fiancé candidate is big brother Virgil's classmate. And another one is enrolling next year. Firmina's condemnation's not the only one she needs to avoid. She would rather not be a fiancé candidate. Firmina stands before the class and introduces herself. On the surface, Firmina's relocation to the territory has become her recuperation. Some people speculate that it is caused by a bad relationship with her. She knows by the gazes she received when she entered the classroom earlier. As expected, Firmina is the heroine of this tragedy, and she's the villainess. And if she is going to attack, she has those trump cards. After class, a student informs them that the student council president has called for them. Sylvester remarks that Virgil is calling. Could it be for a council meeting? Claudia realizes she hasn't heard anything from Virgil himself. Sylvester starts to follow her, but she quickly tells him that her relationship with the other fiancé candidates will worsen if he escorts only her. She recalls his words about having longed for her but convinces herself he was only teasing back then. He says he just wants to be with her. She tilts her head, lips curling in a faint, teasing smile, and asks if he plans to say the same to the next candidate. He chuckles, noting how natural and bold her tone is, and wonders if her little sister learned a thing or two from her. Claudia panics, sensing his anger, though she convinces herself he doesn't have to be angry. She thought men liked it, and she can't deny he did. At last, she wonders could he be jealous? Later, they arrive at the council room. Firmina is also present, giggling that she's honored to be chosen. Claudia notes her sister's presence and wonders what her brother is thinking. Virgil's eyes glow as he welcomes them all. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.